It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Well, hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Welcome to another episode of The Oil Stream, whether you are watching live on Twitter or you are listening to the podcast a little bit later on today. We do appreciate it. It's all brought to you by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen, and nothing says face an elimination down 3-0 like a Popeye's chicken sandwich. Pick one up today. Well over a dozen locations around the province, northern Alberta, and of course now open in St. Albert, down in Windermere, pretty much wherever you want to get yourself a chicken sandwich, they got you covered. Tommy, what is up, my man?
Not much, Dusty. Happy Sunday to you. Welcome back to town. Good job on the broadcast the other night, as always. And nothing says Sunday but Popeye's chicken. So,
yeah, it's
I love
elimination, facing elimination here. There's well, there's a lot to discuss. Let's just say that this series in general, since we last chatted, and obviously just Game 3 itself, we'll certainly get to that. But quickly, Tommy, I mean, you were at the rink today for practice. Anything coming out of practice that's noteworthy in any way?
No, it was a quick skate. Obviously, Nurse, Yamamoto, Draisaitl not on the ice. Evander Kane, we'll find out, if he's going to play tomorrow night or not. And it did feel like, the inevitable end. That's how I would describe it. That's the mood at the rink. The players saying all the right things. Jay Woodcroft staying positive. I took a video of him, giving the group a pep talk towards the end of their quick skate today. And they have to take that approach. They really do. But it just, the inevitability of it, it was there. It was in the air at the rink today, if that's a fair way to describe it.
I think you can probably get that sense no matter the situation. I mean, from sport to sport, when you're a team that's down 3-0 and you just look like you're not on the same level as the opposition, right? It's not like the Oilers have put up 50 shots in 2 games and Francouz or Kemper or whoever stole a couple, and you're like, you know what, we can keep going, we can keep grinding on this, Tommy. They too probably have to take a little bit of a reality check that, this is obviously a super tough hill to climb, especially when the other team just appears to be better than you.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a clinic to a certain extent. I know it's been frustrating for a lot of Oiler fans to watch the team go through this scenario. But, I understand where fans are coming from when they're seeking solutions, right, Dusty? When they're on,
of course,
on the post-game show, they're fired up. They just watched their team lose a third straight game in a different fashion. All 3 of them have been different games altogether. And the way the Oilers lost, anything that Jay Woodcroft has thrown at the Avs, there's been an answer, right? And yes, the Oilers have done themselves in, have made mistakes. Where it's coming from is the Avs are so good that they're forcing the Oilers to make these mistakes. Yes, Darnell Nurse has had a really bad series. Yes, he's hurt. We understand that. But they're trying. They're going to try again tomorrow to try some different thing or to throw some different things at the Colorado Avalanche. But we're seeing firsthand, and it's a painful process for not only the Oilers, but the fan base as well, to see that, yeah, okay, they're a good team, but they're not right there just yet. And you hear about the lessons being learned and teams of the past, great teams of the past going through the same type of scenario. I think we're watching it in real time right now.
Yeah. Which is a step. I mean, it's obviously something we'll save the overall big picture discussion here for maybe a little bit later on in this episode. And I don't know about every episode in the offseason for a couple of months until training camp opens again, obviously. But they're not done just yet. But let's dive into Game 3 last night, Tommy. Connor McDavid, it was a dream start. Connor McDavid's on the ice for 7 seconds, and the puck's in the back of the net. You're up 1-0. The Evander Kane penalty, and we'll get to the hearing. And I know they killed it off, but you can't do that in that moment if you're Evander Kane. You've gotten off to the perfect start, and you completely sucked it away from the team. That was a killer, and the penalty kill was incredible. I mean, yes. Colorado got their chances. They got their shot. Smith stood strong, but just such a buzzkill to take that penalty 20 or 30 seconds after Connor McDavid, of all people, opens the scoring on his first shift of the hockey game.
Yep, and I understand the dislike for Nazem Kadri. I understand why he would get under the skin of the Oilers. I understand because of how effective he has been hurting them with goals and offensive production as well. But that was a dumb play. Straight up dumb play. He paid the price for it with a 5-minute major. We'll talk about the potential suspension, I know. But you're right. It sucked the wind out of the sails, and that's too bad. You just scored the first shot of the game on Pablo Francouz, who stonewalled you when you did actually get chances in game 2 in Colorado. And, it's tough. They came out of that situation okay, but it breathed life into the Avs. So, maybe the Oilers could have rolled to a 2-goal lead. Maybe they could have built up a 3-goal lead
100%.
if they felt good. And there was no chance of that for a quarter of the first period, which is, unacceptable. Veteran guy. I know he's got a physical edge, but not a good play. Not a good play at all. And it did kind of change the momentum of the game.
Yeah.
And then the Darnell Nurse redirection. That's a tough bounce. People pointed at Mike Smith. People pointed at Darnell Nurse. He tried to get his stick in the lane, Dusty. Yeah. That's what you're taught to do.
No, but you nailed it on that one. Like, he tried to get his stick in the lane, bounced off him. Mike Smith should have been hugging his post. That's why you play that position that Mike Smith plays. The goaltender's keeping it tight. Yeah. And I see, a little bit. There wasn't a lot of danger to his left, so he could have stuck in there. But he sees the puck. It's a little bit of a reaction, and it's unfortunate in two different ways. I guess you can put a little bit of blame on two different players, but it's also just one of those things that happens, Tommy. Yeah. If Darnell Nurse's stick isn't there and the pass gets through to somewhere, people are going to be like, wow, how come Darnell Nurse isn't taking the lane? So that's just that goal, as shitty as it was, that's just one of those things that happens every once in a while. Like, that was a tough one to swallow.
When it went in, I'm sitting in the building and I'm sitting up in the press box and you're like, ooh, that looks dangerous. Oh, that went in. And the first thought that crossed my mind after it was confirmed a goal, you saw the goal, the ref pointing goal. I was like, you know what? It's just not meant to be. Good teams create their bounces. There's something to it, the way it works in hockey. And I thought at that moment, I'm like, it's not meant to be, unfortunately. And good on the Oilers for sticking with it, climbing back into that game later on. But it just, to me, I was just like, nope, it's not going to happen. The breaks aren't going their way. And that's a perfect example of it. And it just kind of continued on, even though the Oilers tried their best to fight it. It wasn't meant to be, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah. And they kept you. I thought you made a good point. Like, all three games in this series have been different, right? Like, the Oilers hung around, pushed back last night. McLeod scores on what was a stinker. I mean, if it goes the other way, people are going to be like, you got to stop that thing. Like, that was glove side, and he didn't even have a sniff of it. So he scores to make it a 2-2 hockey game. You're thinking, okay, everything's great. And then, I mean, when you talk about it's not meant to be, Bouchard literally hits a post at one end, and 15 seconds later, Mike Smith, and I tweeted last night, Mike Smith, his game last night was he kept you in it until he didn't. And that's what ended up happening last night. Like, Mike Smith, I did a Pit Stop Pals with Gager today, and before we went on to talk Formula One, we were talking about the game a little bit. And he goes, a lot of the plays Mike Smith last night that made him look good was because he put himself in a bad spot in the first place, and then he had to look good. He goes, and then obviously the third goal, I can't put it all on Smith because I thought he was very good at times last night, but that was a horrible goal in a 2-2 hockey game. Like, that can't happen. That was just awful.
It was. It really was a bad goal, and the sequence of events is tough. Could Bouchard have taken a better lane? Comfort kind of throws him off the puck. The shot, JT Comfort didn't even know it went in. He had to go and look in the net. And Smith
that was very awkward.
Went in. Yeah, exactly. And we're all watching it trickle in, and it's like, ooh, there's a stinker. And of course, it did them in. I mean, not meant to be there. That just reemphasizes the whole "it wasn't meant to be" point. And again, like, people will be like, "Well, Smith, if they had a better goalie, if Koskinen was in net." If Koskinen was in net, I don't think they would have won that game. If Stuart Skinner, like some people were suggesting into the pre and post game show, had played, like, no, I don't think it would have changed. Like, it's just the Avs were going to find a way. They're very, very good. They're on a echelon slightly above where the Oilers are at, and it's proven itself every single game. And unfortunately, those are the breaks, and the Oilers are going to have to make adjustments and tweak for next year.
We'll get to Kane having a hearing here in just a second. Lots of people fired up about McKinnon and Draisaitl coming together. A lot of people talking about the slew foot. Jay Woodcroft said it was a slew foot after the game as well. Tommy, how'd you see that thing break down?
At first, I thought that it was two guys colliding, and I thought Leon got the worst of it. And I looked at him and watched him go down the tunnel. I said, "Uh-oh, there's that leg, maybe knee or high ankle again." And then he came back, and he seemed to be all right the rest of the way. I didn't think it was a slew foot at first when I watched it in real time from the press box. I just, like I said, thought it was two guys going for a battle. And then when I finally saw Connor Halley's tweet with the replay and the close-up of it, I thought, okay, that is a slew foot. The playoffs are different. That's a superstar, and, it might not be right, but that superstars get different treatment. That's just how hockey works, like it or not. And so he got away with one. He absolutely got away with one. And at the end of the day, I do agree. I think it was a slew foot. And you saw Wes McCauley. I don't know if they showed it on the broadcast or not, but Wes McCauley brought in Draisaitl and McKinnon at the end of the period, and he had a conversation with both of them to tell them to settle down, or he was going to call something. You know how the refs like to kind of calm the nerves and everything. So clearly that was on the minds of the officials as well. And yes, ultimately I thought that was a slew foot, Dusty.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. I think it certainly could have been called. But it was like a modified slew foot. Like, the classic slew foot is full-blown foot behind the foot, take the guy down, and he usually falls to the point where his legs almost sort of collapse underneath him. Draisaitl's legs came out, and he went down straight on his tailbone, right? So what basically happened was they went to engage each other, and to me it looked like, when I say modified slew foot, it was like a compacted slew foot. Like McKinnon used his thigh on Draisaitl's thigh and his arm kind of inside on Draisaitl's torso, as opposed to foot behind the ankle and arm on the chest. Classic slew foot, right? So I think that's probably why, because it was like compacted and a little sneaky. I think that's probably why it wasn't called. But it had the motions of a slew foot, but it all happened mid-body, as opposed to, when you're watching it and you see somebody come up and go boom and trip them backwards. And that's why Draisaitl didn't fall technically like a slew foot would fall. He kind of, both his feet came up from underneath him and he kept going that one way. So it was, it should have been a penalty. I'm not saying it shouldn't have been a penalty, but I view it as like some sort of modified or compact slew foot, because it wasn't your typical, oh my God, 100%. That's how you draw up a slew foot in the rule book, in my opinion. Yeah.
And it happened so quick. It seriously, again, it looked like two guys just going for a puck and they collide, and one guy took the brunt of it.
Yeah, and when Draisaitl went off, you're thinking, oh man, his leg must have gone underneath him or whatever. And then you saw the replay, and you just saw him come down hard on his lower back and ass. And I'm thinking, okay, well, his leg should be okay. And then it was nice that he came back out right away. So, yeah, that was interesting. Okay, let's get to Kane. He's got a hearing. Tommy's, is this a one gamer? Is this what's going to happen here? The NHL, a lot of the time they do look to an injury, and Nazem Kadri, by all accounts, is done for quite some time. And I think I saw a report last night he left the game with a cast on his arm. So to me, I'd be very shocked if Evander Kane doesn't get a game with the way the NHL handles things.
Shout out to Irf Gafar from the fourth period, who spotted.
Yeah, it was Irf. That's right.
Kadri, with the cast. So Irf razor sharp on that one, but. Even last night during the postgame show, I thought to myself, no, the punishment kind of fit the crime. And then we found out more information. Kadri had the cast on his arm, and it's worse than initially anticipated. You're right. And the league might go back and say, all right, that was an injury. Severe punishment or more severe punishment is necessary. And they might hand him. The more that this drags on, the more I'm thinking he's done for tomorrow night. I didn't think it was going to be a suspension. Did I think it was suspension worthy? Yes. It was a stupid play. It was a terrible play. We talked about the timing earlier of it. A veteran guy, one of your superstars on your team, having a great playoffs, made a dumb play. And I didn't think it was going to be a suspension. I do think it is suspension worthy. And the more that this drags on and we don't hear anything, I know it's supposed to be a later hearing today. I feel like it will end up being at least a game.
Yeah, and that changes things. And I mean, you said it. I mean, they're facing a huge uphill battle. If Kane can't go in Game 4, Tommy, what do you? Are people going to get their wish? Is Holloway going to draw in, or is something else going to happen here? What happens?
I mean, Brad Malone made it into the lineup yesterday.
I saw Brad Malone slid in.
Good for him. Good for Bugsy, but maybe. I mean, I don't think I don't think you're going to be throwing in a Skinner, a Broberg, and a Holloway and just conceding the game tomorrow, like some people suggested that they do. I feel like they're going to do everything in their power to get the win. Now, if you don't have Evander Kane, like how do you even replace a guy like that?
You can't. I mean, it's that simple.
Goal scoring ability. Yeah. So I'm okay with Holloway coming in this situation. No to Broberg, no to Stuart Skinner. And you are already down Yamamoto. So you're down potentially 2 of your top 6. So if you want to get someone with a little offensive gem, Dylan Holloway is the next guy up, I think, because you're not going to get any offense from Derek Brassard. You're not going to get any offense from Josh Archibald. You're not going to get any offense from Devin Short. Let's not kid ourselves. So, yeah, maybe you throw Holloway in there. It's not like it's been an overly physical series. He's a bigger kid. He's grown up. He's gotten thicker. He's played a little bit of pro hockey. This is a little window of opportunity where I go, you know what, might make sense here.
Yeah, I mean, if he comes in, he doesn't play well, and they lose anyway. They were going to lose anyway eventually here, probably as well. So, we'll see what they end up doing. I know a lot of people have been wanting to see him. If he comes in and scores 2 goals and they still lose, people are going to say, you should have had him in earlier in the series. So, I don't know. It's an interesting situation to see how they end up handling it. Yeah. Before we get to the Ken Morris Remax question of the day, Darnell Nurse, I mean, he's obviously hurt, Tommy, but like the play where he flips the puck over the glass from his own end on the far side of the ice, I mean, unless your injury is in your brain, it doesn't make any sense that you would do something like that in that moment. So, Darnell Nurse is much better than he has looked lately, and the injury has a large part to do with that. But Darnell Nurse has also made some boneheaded decisions in the playoffs in general, but specifically in this series. It has been as many positives, and there has been way more positives than negatives during this run. And the entire season should and will be viewed as a positive. Look where they are. They're going to lose to the team that many people view as the best team in the National Hockey League. But Darnell Nurse is playing, and they've done it essentially with Darnell Nurse having an awful playoff, which is a positive for the team because he can't be this bad ever again. And it'll be healthier next time, you hope. Yeah.
I mean, it could be like everything coming together at the right time in the worst way for Darnell Nurse. Because, yes, the injury, the inability to skate the way he wants to, less physical, and just being exposed flat out by the Colorado Avalanche. And when it rains, it pours, and he's making dumb plays. Yeah, no questions asked there. He's made some stupid plays. It has brought all the Nurse haters back. They've come out in full force after going into hiding in the second round where he quietly had an okay series. We'll find out how bad his injuries are shortly, I'm sure. And I don't know if it'll sway people because they keep bringing up the money thing and the big contract. And he's been bad. And you think next year he's going to be much better. He'll obviously be healthier. But there's no denying he's been bad this series. He's been exposed. They've attacked and gone after him, and it's worked perfectly for the Avs.
Good on them. Good on them for realizing that he's a wounded duck and make him be forced to play at what you would hope to be a perfect ability, and he's just not capable of that right now. Let's get your Ken Morrison Remax question of the day, brought to you by our friend Ken Morrison. Visit his website at kenrmorrison.com. He's a Remax Hall of Famer. You can give him a call, 780-993-4815. Buying or selling, he is your guy. Tommy, what do you got?
Well, I just got a whole case of golf balls from Ken Morrison, which was nice. And cleverly enough, Ken put his face, that fantastic photo we're looking at right now, on the ball with a
That's on the golf ball?
Yeah, nice. With a target around it. So he's in the crosshairs, and he's like, I figure people get mad at me and they want to smack my face with the golf club. And so thank you to Ken for the case of golf balls with his logo and his face on it. The Ken Morrison Remax Excellence question of the day, Dusty, is this. I know the series isn't over, but it's pretty damn close. So having said that, is the success and the run that this team has gone on in the postseason changed and moved the bar up for expectations for next year? A lot or just a little bit?
Oh, I'd have to say, if I have to answer that, I'd have to say a little bit. I'd have to say a little bit because I don't know how you keep Evander Kane around, like financially. Like Evander Kane, if they roll back with Evander Kane next year, maybe my answer would be a lot. But if they don't come back with Evander Kane next year, then it's kind of a reset to the younger guys and, Holloway, and continue to elevate Yamamoto. And if Puljujarvi's still here next year, continue to hope that he does a little bit better. And both Yamamoto and Puljujarvi, if you look at their regular seasons, Tommy, they had pretty decent regular seasons for guys who are going to play middle six, right? So if you can add in a Holloway to that group, certainly it helps. I'll be very interested to see what they're able to accomplish with limited cap space. Like, can Ken Holland get creative again and move out a Cassian cap hit, or move out a Tyson Barrie cap hit, and actually use that money to keep an Evander Kane, or do something between the pipes, unless you're just ready to bring back Smith with Skinner next year, which I think would have to be the front-running plan at this point. Yeah. So I think the one thing that'll be lost in all of it, in the sense of disappointment from a lot of people when it's all said and done, just because it'll all be said and done and they're not going out in fine fashion right now, at least against Colorado, is the experience gained for this group. For Ryan McLeod, for McDavid and Draisaitl, for Evan Bouchard, for these guys who are going to be around here for the next 4, 5, 6 years, this playoff experience is invaluable for these guys. So you can't take that away, even if you do lose a couple of players along the way. So I would say they made the conference final this year. If we're sitting here and saying my expectation for them next year would be a little bit more, it would be to get back to the conference final and win some games. And if that's a little bit more, then I'm totally okay saying that, because I'm not even sure 100% until I see what the roster is going to look like, if that would be my expectation for them again.
Yeah, I think the bar is elevated. I don't think it's elevated too much. Like, if you expect them to be in the conference final again next year, that might be realistic, but it also might be wishful thinking, because you're going to have to see how this team adapts next year. If there is growth, I do feel like Puljujarvi and Yamamoto will be back next year, both of them, and I feel like you don't have to pay an arm and a leg for them. I know the cap space is limited. And Dusty, they did show progression. They had two polar opposite seasons. One guy started off really slow. The other guy started off hot, and then they basically, at the same time, flipped positions. And if both of those guys can contribute, take another step in their evolution, because they're not young guys anymore. These guys have been around for 5, 6 years now. It's not like asking an Anton Slepyshev and Jujhar Khaira to step into more prominent roles after 2016-17 and going into 17-18. Like, Yamamoto and Puljujarvi have now played in the top 6 for a couple of years and have put up better numbers as they've gone on. Maybe you slide Holloway in next year if you don't bring Kane back. If you do try to get Kane back, it's going to come at a cost of roster players, obviously. And that could be a detriment too. So you got to balance and weigh that out. And Evander Kane might not want to play here. Let's not kid ourselves. Like, he might say, hey, I totally took full advantage of my opportunity. It worked in the time frame that we were together in Edmonton and the player was with the team in Edmonton. And thank you. Appreciate it. And then they move on. Like, that could be what plays out. And so you have to have a plan A and a plan B. But I think now you have to win at least a round next year, no matter what the team looks like.
Oh, yeah.
And then, as soon as you get into the second round, I feel, and I expect that the team should be able to win that second round. But the playoffs, anything can happen. We've seen it this year. Who would have thought the Oilers would have taken care of the Calgary Flames in 5 games? But I think, the needle has been moved and the bar has been elevated slightly. But I don't think you can go and say, hey, this team is a contender automatically. Not just yet. No.
All right, that's your Kim Morrison Remax question of the day. I want to get to a couple of comments that have rolled in. Is this one from Jay Miller, says, experience. Come on, Dusty. This year was pure luck, plain and simple. And I'll just address this, because part of it, there's a little bit of luck along the way, 100%. New York Rangers have had a little bit of luck along the way. They might not even be playing still if Sidney Crosby stays healthy in the first round. So every team has luck along the way if you're going to win a Stanley Cup. It's as simple as that. But to try to say that this group didn't gain valuable experience in the playoffs this year is just delusional. I mean, whether there's a little bit of luck along the way, you still learn from all of those other moments along the way. You're telling me Ryan McLeod didn't learn anything in these playoffs? Hell, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins hopefully gained something from this experience. And McDavid and Draisaitl themselves being like, oh, look what we did in a series against Calgary, who was the top team in the division the entire year. They absolutely took over, and Draisaitl was banged up the entire time. So part of the experience that he learned was playing through an injury to try to have success in the postseason. So, I mean, we can debate how lucky they were along the way, but to say that this group didn't gain experience from this entire experience is, to me, Tommy, that's just putting too much of a negative spin on it, really.
Yeah, that's a bit short-sighted and not giving them credit. I mean, the talk going into games 6 and 7 against LA was that Jay Woodcroft was being outcoached. Turns out he actually one-upped his mentor in Todd McClellan in games 6 and 7. And
schooled Daryl Sutter.
Absolutely owned Daryl Sutter. And that's
who just won the Coach of the Year. Yeah.
They created their own luck.
Yeah.
To Jay, like, yes, there was luck. There always is. And you have to be a little bit lucky in the postseason. But they created a lot of their own bounces and breaks. And kudos to them. And I look at that second round and I go, that's the perfect example of them, having that realization, creating that epiphany for themselves that, yeah, you could do it in the playoffs. You could be a damn good team. And this is what it takes to bear down and make it happen in the postseason.
There we go. That's going to do it for another episode of the Oil Stream. Tommy, what time do you get rolling on Monday with the pregame, buddy?
It's 6 o'clock again, the face-off, right? Yeah, we'll go at 5 o'clock because we're cutting into Gregor's show, so we don't eat too much of his time on his show. So 5 to 6, we'll go, and Gregor will stick around. I think Struddy will be gone, but Cass is there as always, and Connor Halley. Or Connor's on vacation, actually. So
he's off somewhere right now, isn't he? Yeah,
he's in BC.
Oh, that sounds very nice. Well, anyway, Tommy will have you going at 5 o'clock tomorrow for your pregame show on Monday as the Oilers face elimination against the Colorado Avalanche. We'll see if they can stay alive and give us a conversation for next week, which I certainly hope they do. Tommy, thanks for popping in on a Sunday, buddy. And if you've been watching on the live stream, you've not yet subscribed to the Oil Stream podcast, just search the Oil Stream on all your podcasting platforms. Give us a sub. It's all brought to you by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. Go treat yourself to a Popeye's chicken sandwich or some juicy nugs for dinner here on a Sunday night. They've got some very exciting things planned with the Oilers in the future. I can't give out any details yet, but it's right up my alley. I cannot wait for this. So stay tuned for more on that next year. It should be really good. Tommy, you have a great day, buddy.
You too. Nothing says the brink of elimination like a Popeye's chicken sandwich. And be sure to like, subscribe, and smash that thumbs up button, as we always ask politely.